Now, what I want to talk about in this little short talk is such an important subject in terms of everyday living. And the topic is a term which we call superimposition. So I'll start with the classical story first, and then we'll go on to the practical applications of it. Now, what happens is they talk about mistaking a snake for a rope. In other words, here it is, it's a sort of twilight, it's not totally dark because you can only make a mistake when it's not completely dark, or if it's completely light, you don't make a mistake. It's when it's sort of not clear, you can make a mistake. So here it is, it's slightly dark, and you've got a rope curled up in the corner. Now, because you can't see it clearly, what happens is that we can mistake this rope for a snake. In other words, we superimpose. Now, the word superimpose means to basically place on top of. So here we have the reality of the given, a rope sitting in the corner. That's the given. And we superimpose on the given something else. Now, this is a mistake. Now, the word mistake means a wrong taking. So we take something to be something that it's not. That's what we mean by superimposition. Now, let's imagine I'm having a problem with this. I'm actually thinking that I'm looking at a snake. Now, what this means is I'm taking the mistake, the superimposition for the given. Okay, now this is very important to understand. We can never really become aware of our superimpositions in themselves, because when we're under the sway, when we're actually looking at a superimposition, it appears to us as though it's the given. Now, this is a major problem. Now, in Vedanta, besides the most important in terms of our primary spiritual practice, which is the discrimination between what is eternal and what is moving, or between the self and what is not the self, which is a fundamental discrimination. In terms of our everyday living, there is a discrimination that's considered extremely important, and this is what you would call it. It's the major existential discrimination. In other words, the discrimination that we need to be able to make in terms of our existence in the world. And this is the discrimination between what is given and what is superimposed on the given. Because if we don't make this discrimination and be able to clearly see and distinguish discriminate the difference between these two things, we're in serious trouble. So what we have is when we're caught in superimposing something on the given and then taking it as the given, this can cause us a lot of problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpack this so that we can clearly see how this works in everyday life. Now, the first thing is that in the world of the given, everything is just given. So what happens is that people do things that we don't like. This is a fundamental happening in our life. That there are going to be situations and people, and we're going to do things that we don't like. Now, when that happens, we also have a reaction about what we've done, what other people have done, or what the situation is. Okay? Now, let's just take the example. Let's imagine that a friend of yours has, let's say you've lent a friend of yours money and he now can't pay it back, or she can't pay it back. Now, first of all, the given is you have lent someone money, and what's happened is you're not going to get, you've found out somehow you're not going to be paid it back. And you have a reaction, you dislike it. All of that is given. What the friend has done and your reaction to it. Okay? Now, this is given. There's no superimposition there, is it? Now, however, what happens is that we add something to the given. In other words, as soon as something bad happens in terms of our likes and dislikes, What happens is that we, first of all, evaluate how bad it is. We exaggerate it. So what happens is we go, this is just terrible, what this person, it's just terrible. It's just, I mean, to be able to do that to a friend is outrageous. Now, what happens is that we measure, what we do is we determine how bad it is, and we normally exaggerate the badness. Now, you can hear yourselves do this. You know, when you say, oh, this is terrible, it's horrible, can you believe this? What's happening is that the given is simply, you've lent money to a friend, for whatever reason they're not going to pay you back, and you're disappointed and you're upset with it. That's the given. And what the person did, you had no control over, and your reaction to that person, you also have no control over, because as far as Vedanta is concerned, what's happening on the cosmic scheme, all the activities in the universe, your thoughts and feelings are also part of that activity. You're not the author of that, you just simply find yourself thinking certain things and feeling certain things and that sort of stuff. Now, when we superimpose, though, we go, oh, that's terrible, that's shocking. What we've done is we have taken the given and then we project onto it, we superimpose, we cover the given with our interpretation. It's terrible and shocking. You see how we've exaggerated there? Now, the problem is we are now facing a terrible situation, because what we're doing is we have mistaken our superimposition for the given. We're not aware of that, though. As far as we're concerned, it's as though we're facing a terrible situation. You see the exaggeration? So we've superimposed something on the given, and this superimposition comes from our own mind. It doesn't come from the given. It comes concerning our evaluation about how bad it is about the given. So what we're doing is we're actually experiencing our superimposition as the given. Does it get worse? Absolutely. Once we've evaluated something as really bad or outrageous or terrible or horrible, we then start to feel sorry for ourselves. We go, I just can't stand this. It's just too much. Have you ever seen people or yourself find yourself saying, oh, I can't stand this. This is too much. Now, what's happening is that I'm superimposing an idea of myself as a victim of circumstances. Here I am, I'm finding it far too much. Now, if a friend doesn't pay you back money, are you dead? No. Are you in hospital? No. So you can stand it. But what happens is that with the superimposition, I can't stand this. Suddenly, it's as though you become the superimposition. It's as though you become the superimposition. It's as though I'm now a person who's suffering at the hands of this person, and I'm finding it far too much for me. Again, this is a superimposition. So in other words, what's happening is I'm actually experiencing a world of an imposition, a superimposition placed on what is given. Now, does it stop there? Absolutely not. You see, we first of all evaluate how bad it is, and we exaggerate, so we superimpose that evaluation on the given, and we experience that as the given. We then superimpose on ourselves, I can't stand this, so we feel self-pitying, so we feel that we're a person who's subject and victimized by the actions of others. That's another superimposition. And then we go, that person is a damn rotten person. They're a terrible person. They're a bad person. They're dishonest. They're this, that, and the other thing. Or we go, we're such a fool. Why did I lend it to him? I can't stand this about myself. Again, what happens is we place a superimposition on what we call ourselves. So how we're experiencing ourselves, I'm just a fool. In other words, what's happened is the given is, I'm a person who lent money to a person and they haven't paid it back. That's the given. But now, instead of the given, there is now this fool, which I call myself, or this rotten person, which I call the other person. again, they're superimpositions. There's no such thing as a rotten person. That's just an idea. However, when that idea is superimposed on the given, we have an experience of that idea as if it is given. This is the whole problem with this. Now, this can happen with anything. Let's say, for example, we lose a job. We go, oh my God, it's all terrible. Well, we're still alive. We exaggerate the badness of things. We just exaggerate the badness of things. It's a human tendency. When I don't get what I want, I'm like a little kid. I spit the dummy. I don't like this. This is terrible. Right? So I start creating a story about this, how bad it is, how I'm victimized by it, how they're just a terrible person, or I'm a stupid person, or the world sucks. All of these superimpositions are taken to be the given, and I am literally enclosed in a world that I can't get out of. Now, the big question now is, okay, so if this is the case, how do I actually get over, or how do I shift from living in a world of superimposition to living in the world of the given? Now, this is a crucial point. The only way we can do it is through inquiry. Now, in Vedanta, the whole process of Vedanta is an inquiry. Now, essentially, the primary inquiry is to do with who I am, who am I? Who am I? What am I, actually? What is the reality that, when I refer to me, what is the content of that? What does that mean? That's the primary inquiry. However, Swami Dayananda, who's part of the traditional school of Vedanta, says that in order for me to conduct that inquiry, I have to live in the real world, in the world of the given. So what's necessary is also an existential inquiry. In other words, to be able to begin to live and function in harmony with what is, the given. In other words, otherwise, that's the condition to be able to do the primary inquiry. Now, in order to do that, I have to be able to recognize when I'm caught up in superimposition and to be able to shift out of it. Now, I can't shift out of it by going, oh, I'm caught up, I must not superimpose. That's not gonna work. Rather, what happens is, what Swami Dayananda talks about is suspending of judgment. So we can be in a situation we're caught up and we're angry and we're frustrated at something that's happened. That's quite normal. So what we do is, first of all, we suspend judgment and we begin to inquire. Now, this is the whole point of the Vedantic inquiry. We suspend judgment so that we can actually see what is actually given. Now, when I suspend, I say, okay, so let's imagine my spouse has said something cruel and harsh to me, right? And I'm very upset about it. It was terrible that she said something like that to me. Now, so if I stop and pause, and Swami Dayananda says the great thing about what we're blessed with is we can suspend our judgments. And in order to engage in Vedantic inquiry, that's the first step. We suspend our judgment. We don't just believe, we suspend the judgment and we begin to examine. So let's say my spouse says something to me that I'm a terrible loser, or I'm a horrible person, or whatever it is that they said, something that I found offensive. Now, when I stick to facts, when I stick simply to the description of the given, my spouse has said something to me and I don't like it. Now, that's the truth. That actually is the given. Now, is it pleasant when my spouse says something to me that's rather harsh or hostile? No, it's not pleasant. Okay, it's not a pleasant experience. It doesn't have to be a pleasant experience. But an uncomfortable and unpleasant experience is a lot different from something terrible has happened to me. Do you see what I'm saying? See, one is the given. My spouse has said something unpleasant to me and I've experienced it as unpleasant. That's one thing. That's the given. But as soon as I superimpose onto that given, what she said, she's been so mean and she's just terrible and horrible what she said to me, I just really can't stand it, and she's a total lowlife for saying that to me, all of that whole thing is superimposition. But when I'm caught up in that, I'm not aware that I'm superimposing onto the given. Because all I'm aware of is, as far as I am concerned, the given is my superimposition. This is the whole problem. But when I stop and I pause and I suspend my judgment, I go, so if I strictly stick to the description of what happened, my spouse has said something to me that's not very complimentary and it's unpleasant, that's factual. That's just something that I can accept. I don't have to accept it, but the fact is that it's there, so I might as well accept it. But I don't just do that. What I do is I resist that fact and I superimpose onto that fact a whole lot of my own stuff. And I'm caught in a world of my own. But as soon as I begin to pause and say, what actually happened here? You know, like I'm experiencing this as if it's a terrible experience. Well, how terrible is it really? She said that I'm a bit of a loser. Well, okay, so she said that. Was it pleasant to hear? Not really. Is it? But how terrible is it actually? Is it something that's really that bad, or am I exaggerating it? How bad is this? How bad is this? Well, when it all boils down, it's simply unpleasant. That's it. Or uncomfortable. That's it. Nothing more. But because of my superimposition, I'm now facing a terrible experience. I'm having a terrible experience because I'm taking my evaluation that it's terrible as the truth, as the given. Now, also I might form judgments about her. She or depending on whether it's your spouse, whether it's your wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, doesn't matter. If I consider them a total and utter rotten person, or use some other kind of expletive. Again, as soon as I have a notion of somebody as a bad person, as a terrible person, as a real right so-and-so, that's all superimposition. And I'm no longer seeing the given. I'm no longer living in the world of the given. What I'm actually doing is I'm actually projecting onto the given, I'm placing over the given a superimposition, and then I'm taking that superimposition as the given. But as soon as I start to examine it, as soon as I suspend judgment and see, now, is this true? Is it terrible? No, it's just uncomfortable. Now, what about can I stand it? Is it true that you know, when I say I can't stand, I've had enough of this. You know, when you get caught up in that, I've had enough of this. It's a sort of a feeling of self-pity, isn't it? Like, here I am suffering from this terrible experience, and I've had enough of this. Again, it's just a story. It's a superimposition. It's as if I'm a person who has been a victim of the other person, hence all the resentment. How dare they do that to me? I can't stand this, and blah, blah, blah. And what about all my conclusions? What about my conclusions about myself? Oh, my goodness. She's called me a loser. I just feel such a loser now. Again, any notion I have of myself, positive or negative, according to my teacher Swami Atma Prakasananda, is an erroneous notion. It's a superimposition. So what happens is the only thing that takes us out of this is to be able to stop and examine what the given is. And if we just simply suspend our judgment, we go, is this true? Is it true that I'm a loser? Is it true that I can't stand it? Is it true that it's terrible? What happens is that the superimposition, we see through the superimposition into the given. And once we actually see the given, and the given takes up all the room in our minds, we are what we call objective. And all of the upset and all of the emotion or whatever just simply is not there. Because most of our kind of psychological and emotional problems and reactions are due to superimposition. So the inquiry where we start to examine, where we shift from superimposing things that aren't there and then experiencing them as a given, if we see through the superimposition and we let the given reveal itself, we through examination we can rediscover the given. and this is necessary. It's a constant, and we have to be able to do this constantly. And in Vedanta, this constant inquiry as to, is it true? Is it true what we're seeing? So we suspend judgment and we say, okay, I've got these judgments, I'll suspend them, and I'm going to just see whether this is true. This is the practice of Vedanta, this inquiry and finding what's true. And it has two areas of inquiry. The area of our existential area, which is our daily living and the life that we're facing, whereas in this area, the most important thing is what is objective and what is subjective, what is a superimposition and what is given, and then the primary inquiry as to what our nature is. But you can forget about inquiring into what our nature is until you start to live in harmony with the world as it is given. And this is considered the first primary work, and this is the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita.